Hi everyone, I'm Mary from Joyful and Mary Quilting, and in this video we are going to learn how to match the large, bold patterns of your fabric strips when you are piecing a border. Using this process, you can create a border for any size quilt that exceeds the width of fabric, which is 42 inches, with completely invisible seams. So let's get started. Many times when we put borders on our fabrics, it doesn't matter if a print matches because there's not really much that shows. In this particular fabric, I have a very light tone-on-tone white. My connection actually between my two border strips is right here. You can't see it. I hid it with my quilting. It's also very easily hid just because there's not a pattern that's distracting us. So that's what most of our borders do, and for the most part we can get by without matching a print. But when we have a border print such as this is very bold. There are a lot of images on here, and when we're sewing strips together, because chances are your border is going to be longer than a width of fabric, longer than 42 inches. You will need to piece strips in order to get the desired horizontal and vertical lengths of those border strips. Now, if I piece this together just by cutting with the fabric strips like we usually do and then sewing the ends together, I could have half of a piano connected to half of a violin connected to half of a horn. Who knows? It'll be a little bit of a mishmash when it comes to that seam, and I'm going to show you that. In this example, I sewed together two width of fabric strips, 40 inches and 42, something like that. And you can see we have half of a piano, half of a horn, half of a harp. It shows. We can tell that these two have been pieced right there in the center. Can we get by with this? Yeah, we probably can. And sometimes you can even strategically piece, like maybe right through here where there is a piece of white that we can connect to another piece of white, and it really won't show as much. But there are other occasions when we want to have the full image showing, whether it be the piano or the horn or the harp. So in this next piece, I actually did that. I was very careful to piece the two together. Now I really have to look for it to see where that seam is. It's right here. And look at that. It is pieced nicely. The piano is together, the horn is perfect, and it flows nicely. This gives such a professional look to your borders when you don't have that. Now, there are other people that will cut your border just the length of fabric rather than the width of fabric, which you can do, but that does increase the stretchiness of your fabric, and there's a lot of waste with that because you waste the second half of your piece. So this works well if we follow these instructions. So I took my fabric and I just cut two sections because, again, I wanted to have enough to cut all of my borders. So I have section A and section B. The way that we connect these together is, let's take a look at our fabric. This is section A. We have two selvage edges. This one is not really marked, and this one has usually the manufacturer's information on it. So we're going to call this the start. We're going to call this the finish. We always connect the finish to another start. We don't connect two finishes because we will never be able to match the pattern if we do. So let's turn this open, and you can see it looks like we just have a total mishmash of all these different images, but there's actually a repeat. So if we take a look, where is the repeat? We've got a piano that's facing this direction. It's big, it's easy to see. Let's go down, and as we move along the fabric, where is that piano? It's right here. So once we get here, we know that the pattern is going to repeat again. But we don't have a whole lot left. There's only this much left, so there's a good chance that there will be quite a bit of waste when we try and match up those pieces. Again, it depends on your fabric. I can't really tell you from here how yours will work out, but I am going to show you how mine works out. So here's that piece that we know all these images are going to go together. We also have a repeat this way. Now the repeat on my fabric was 23 inches this way, but it's only 12 inches this way. You can see the top of my fabric has the leg of the piano, and here's the next one with the leg. The pattern starts again. So we have to keep that sort of in mind when you're cutting your pieces. You want to cut two pieces that are fairly similar. That might mean that you waste a little bit of fabric in between. Again, you'll just have to work that out with your fabric. Now this is section A. Section B, I've cut just a little bit larger, about 2 inches larger, just so that we have some wiggle room when it comes to matching. The first thing we'll do before we do any matching with this piece, because we're going to match this to this, we need to get ourselves a nice edge. And the way we get that is we fold our fabric, and I'm going to use my iron, and I'm not pressing directly on my cutting mat. There is a wood base on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just take and fold about a ½ an inch in, maybe an inch, doesn't matter, just as long as we've gotten rid of that selvage edge, because you know that's a bound edge and we just don't want that to get in our border. So about this much, I've got a good amount of my pattern showing, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press that. You can use a pressing solution if you want to hold that down. That helps. If you've already pressed your fabric ahead of time, you've probably got a real nice feel to it and you don't need to use the pressing solution. But as you can see, just going to press that down nicely and give myself a nice folded edge. Now I'm going to turn this right side up, and remember, this is our finish, the edge, the selvage edge that doesn't have any information on it. What we need to do is find where this piece, this fold, matches this fabric. So it's going to, like I said, there's some waste involved here. We have to go along and find where that piano is and the horn, where we can match that up. And if we look, it looks like it's down here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to match that up just like that. Now, when I cut this piece, I probably could have strategically cut it a little bit better, but I was working with a small piece and I wanted to make sure that I had enough. So you may want to look, there's going to be a little discrepancy here, but if I would have cut this one a little bit differently, I could have moved it up and not had so much waste, but this is the way it is. So I've got all my little pieces, my leg, my violin, my horn, everything is matched up nicely, as you can see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my washable glue stick and I'm going to glue this in place. Just carefully fold this back and I'm going to put some glue on this edge. Then when I put it back, make sure that you reline it up. And then what I like to do is I like to take my iron and then I will press this until it's dry. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's what I would do, is press that until the glue is dry. To give me a double check, I'm going to also pin this. So glue is dry. I'm going to open this up carefully because you don't want to move anything. And you can see this piece is nicely anchored on the second piece. Again, got some waste here. We're going to pin the fold, or that crease is our sewing line. So we are going to pin all the way down here to hold that in place. And you want to pin it well because you don't want it to move. So a few pins, especially at the beginning, at the end, are really important. Now that I have this pinned, I'm going to start before fabric B, and I'm going to sew all the way down in that crease. Once I have done that, I'll remove my pins and I am going to trim this seam. So let me show you how I do that. So I have sewn on that line, I've removed my pins, and I am actually, I want to test it, I want to check it first just to make sure that everything lines up the way I wanted it to, which it does. And then I'm going to trim a 1/4 inch seam right here. So I'm going to place the 1/4 inch marking of my ruler right on the seam that I sewed, and then I'm going to trim that off. Now again, I've got some extra here. This is going to be this is the excess that we had. We can save that as a scrap. And then you can press this open, press it to the side, whatever your preference is. But you'll want to make sure that you have that all nicely pressed. This is our usable area right here. This is where we are going to cut our border strip. So now that I have this cut, I need to trim my border. Let's say my border is going to be 3.5 inches. So I will make sure that I have everything folded and pressed, and then I am going to cut my 3.5 inch border. Now keep in mind that we do have excess on the top and bottom, so you're going to want to turn this in such a way that everything is flat. You want to make sure that your seam lines up so it's all straight, and then you will trim your borders, whatever size you're going to be using, 2.5, 3.5, whatever. You'll trim this off first, square everything up, and then trim your borders, which I have done. So here's one. This is the top piece. I trimmed it off. I had some waste, as you can see, that I kind of squared up a little bit just so it wouldn't be such a mess here. Now what I'm going to do is fold it up a little bit. You want to make sure everything is straight so that you don't get a curved border. And then I'm going to take my ruler. Remember, I wanted a 3.5 inch border strip. So this is the cut edge that's nice and even. This is the edge that needs to be trimmed. And there I have my border. Now let's see where those pieces were lined up. Oh, right here. It's so hard to tell because look at how nice that looks. Everything lines up just perfectly, and we have a nice long strip. Now let's say this isn't quite long enough. You know that you have a side of your quilt that's actually longer than this. You'll just repeat the process before you cut your strips and add on additional sections to it. But in the end, when you cut your strips, you're going to get a nice, beautiful border, and you are not going to be able to see those connections. They will be invisible. And there you have it. With just a little bit of extra effort, you can create beautifully matched border strips that give your quilt that finished professional look. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and you feel inspired to try this technique on your next project. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I am always trying to be joyful, but I will always be merry.